Recall that in this course, we are primarily using a Western science lens to look at nutrition and the nutrients. However, I really love that we're also using an Indigenous lens because it gives a different way of looking at some of the topics that we're going to cover. So now we're going to look at some Indigenous perspectives in and around water. So a Western lens of water might say that water is an important nutrient. It's an important commodity that we're lucky to have lots of here in Canada, that it's important for industry, it's important for agriculture, and it's really about using it. Whereas an Indigenous perspective, and granted there's lots of perspectives depending on which Indigenous person we talk to and where they're from, what kind of tribe they're a part of, Indigenous perspective of water might go a little bit further and probably goes quite further and talks about water as mother life's blood, or that it being tied to our existence or being part of the creation story in their particular culture. And it's something that has a life of its own, and it's not just about taking from it, but having a relationship between ourselves and water. And a really cool example of this is the Wanganui River in New Zealand, where Indigenous people for many years, for 140 years, the people that lived along that river lobbied the government to make it preserved and to give it the same legal rights as humans. And Gerard Albert, one of the main lawyers that fought for this, he said so beautifully, and I'm just going to read it, "We can trace our genealogy to the origins of the universe, and therefore, rather than us being masters of the natural world, we are part of it. We want to live like that as our starting point. And that is not an anti-development or anti-economic use of the river, but to begin with the view that it is a living being, and then consider its future from that central belief. These individuals don't see water as a commodity or something we can take or something that we use, but something that's kind of part of our existence and part of our relationship with each other and with the land and with the universe as well." So this is a New Zealand example, and just for the record, that river was given legal rights, and now it has to be protected, which is great. Here in Canada, we haven't had anything similar to that happen, but there are projects led by Indigenous individuals, and have Indigenous individuals working alone or with science or Western people as well, that are working to what we call decolonize water, and to again apply more of this Indigenous ways of knowing perspectives to preserving water. So an example of this, like I said, is the Decolonizing Water project. And as it says here, it's a community-based water governance system, an example of which occurs along the Yukon River. And along the Yukon River, they've actually trained various Indigenous individuals that live there to collect water samples to make sure that it's up to standards. And they've done studies to compare the water samples taken by Indigenous individuals, and they found that they're just as good as those samples taken by scientists. Of course they are. And this just shows that community-based approaches that work with or are led by Indigenous individuals can help offer this different way of relating with water and other natural resources in a way that isn't just about taking and using and commodifying things, but also preserving them and celebrating them.